Have you ever wondered what actually happens inside your computer the moment you press the power button? Or why your phone instantly forgets everything the second the battery dies, but somehow still remembers how to turn itself back on? The answer comes down to two tiny but incredibly important types of memory: RAM and ROM. They sound similar, they're both memory, and people mix them up all the time. But they do completely different jobs. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what each one does, how they're different, and why your devices couldn't work without both. So let's break it down. This is one of those concepts that suddenly makes everything about computers click into place. Before we compare them, let's get one thing straight. Inside every computer, phone, or tablet, there's a brain called the CPU, the central processing unit. The CPU does all the thinking and calculating. But the CPU needs somewhere to keep information while it works. That's where memory comes in. Think of memory as the CPU's storage space. Some of that space is temporary, used only while the device is on. And some of it is permanent, it stays even when the power is off. That single difference, temporary versus permanent, is the heart of today's topic. RAM handles the temporary side, ROM handles the permanent side. Let's start with RAM. RAM stands for Random Access Memory. RAM is your computer's short-term, working memory. It's the space where your device keeps all the data and programs it's actively using right now. When you open a browser, launch a game, or edit a document, all of that gets loaded into RAM so the CPU can reach it instantly. Here's the key feature of RAM: it is volatile. Volatile means the moment you switch off the power, everything stored in RAM disappears. That's why if your computer crashes before you save, that unsaved document is gone. Now, why random access? The CPU can jump directly to any piece of data instantly, in any order. This makes RAM extremely fast. More RAM means your device can keep more programs running smoothly at the same time. This is why people say, you need more RAM. RAM comes in two main types. DRAM, dynamic RAM, is the main memory in most computers and phones. It needs constant refreshing. SRAM, static RAM, is faster and more expensive, used for the CPU's cache. Quick example: an essay, 12 browser tabs, and your music app all sit in RAM at the same time. That's why opening too much at once makes your computer freeze. The RAM fills up. So RAM is fast, temporary, and read and write, but it forgets everything when the power goes off. Now let's meet the other half of the story. ROM stands for read-only memory. ROM is your computer's permanent memory. It stores the essential instructions a device needs to start up and function. The most important feature of ROM is that it is non-volatile. Unlike RAM, ROM keeps its data even when there's no power. You can unplug the device, leave it for years, and the information is still there. So what's stored in ROM? Mostly firmware, the built-in software that tells the hardware how to behave. A perfect example is the BIOS, or the bootloader, the first instructions that run when you turn on your computer. When you press power, the CPU looks to ROM and asks, what do I do first? ROM provides the startup instructions, which then load the operating system. As the name suggests, ROM is read-only, written once and meant to stay fixed. But ROM has evolved into several types. Mask ROM is programmed at the factory and can never be changed. PROM can be written once by the user, then it's permanent. EPROM can be erased with ultraviolet light and reprogrammed. EEPROM can be erased electrically. Flash memory, in USB drives and SSDs, descends from it. Quick example: a washing machine still knows every wash cycle because those instructions live in ROM. Unplug it for a year, plug it back in, and it remembers perfectly. So read-only is a historical name. Modern ROM can be updated through firmware updates, but it still holds data permanently. Alright, now let's put them head to head. 1. Full name: RAM is random access memory, ROM is read-only memory. 2. Volatility: RAM is volatile, ROM is non-volatile. This is the single biggest difference. 3. Purpose: RAM is temporary working memory, ROM is permanent system instructions. 4. Read and write: RAM is freely read and written, ROM is mainly read from. 5. Speed: RAM is much faster, ROM is slower in comparison. 6. Capacity. A phone might have 8 GB of RAM while its boot ROM is tiny. 7. Data on power off. RAM forgets everything, ROM remembers everything. If you remember nothing else, RAM is temporary and fast, ROM is permanent and stable. Let me give you an analogy that makes this stick forever. Imagine you're cooking in a kitchen. The countertop is your RAM. It's where you lay out the ingredients you're actively using, fast and convenient. But at the end of the day, you clear the counter completely. Nothing stays. Now the recipe book on the shelf, that's your ROM. It holds the permanent instructions you follow every single time. You don't rewrite it, you just read from it and it never disappears. The counter is where the work happens. The recipe book holds the instructions, you need both to cook. Let's see this in real life. When you turn on your phone, ROM holds the startup instructions that wake it up. Then your apps, chats, and current game load into RAM while you use them. When you play a video game, its graphics get pulled into RAM so the action stays smooth. Close the game and that data clears out to make room for the next thing. Every smart device, your TV, microwave, or car dashboard, uses ROM for its firmware. An ATM, ROM runs the machine. RAM holds your transaction, then clears it. A digital camera, ROM stores its instructions. RAM buffers your photo before saving. So let's quickly recap. RAM is random access memory, fast, temporary read and write, and volatile. It holds whatever you're actively using and forgets everything when the power turns off. ROM is read-only memory, permanent, stable, mostly read-only and non-volatile. It holds the essential instructions your device needs to start up, and it never forgets. They're not competitors, they're a team. RAM gives speed and multitasking. ROM gives the foundation to even turn on. And that's the difference between RAM and ROM. If this helped it click, give the video a thumbs up and tell me which topic to break down next. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.